All right, you guys, welcome to Boss Bitch Radio. Welcome. This is Halloween edition. I have my lovely co-hostess,
Amanda Glitters.
Miss Amanda Glitters. If you are over on the YouTube, don't be a troll, but leave us a comment and let us know that you appreciate the podcast, because trolls, they be trolling these days.
I didn't even know until you told me.
Yeah. But anyways, if you're listening on our usual platforms audibly, go over to YouTube, subscribe, like, comment, hit the bell, all the things they tell you to do over there. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of things.
It's a lot. It's a lot of things. Well, today we are talking about Halloween candy. Ooh, Halloween candy, and making sure you don't lose your shit when it is time to partake in the Halloween festivities. I think a lot of people worry about this still. I don't mean to sound insensitive, but it's not something I think about really anymore, if that makes any sense. How are you with Halloween candy situations?
I mean, I try not to eat candy. You know, It's just not good for you. But I do have my favorites. But I feel like I've changed my ways, right? So it's not really Halloween candy. It's like if I want to indulge in something that's candy-like, it's probably going to be a protein bar.
I agree. I think I'm so used to not so used to now, but when I was working in the medical field, we always had candy out, right? It was like the weirdest thing. Like I worked in a doctor's office and we had like candy. And so I would constantly just
everywhere.
For patients.
Yes.
For patients. Smart. So I was used to that, but I don't think I really started like worrying about Halloween candy until I was like actively conscious about what I was eating.
Right.
Like before I would just eat whatever. Like I would raid my kids' food. I'd sit on their things. I'd sit on the floor with them and be like, parent taxes. And I would just like take out all of my favorites.
I was always the little kid. So everybody always took my candy.
Oh yeah. I would have took your candy too.
Yeah, I know.
Totally.
I know.
But I don't feel like I really started worrying about it until I was like in a cut or something like that. Like I think I maybe thought about it, but it wasn't something I like was overly concerned with.
Well, I feel like there's people that like love candy. Like they see candy, there's no way they can't go ahead and grab it, right?
Yes. I used to be me. I feel like it a little bit.
I don't know if I was like, I think it's certain types of candy.
Yes.
Certain types.
It
like if there is a candy there and I'm like, no, not my style. Like Smarties.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing that either.
No.
If you eat Smarties, you're a special kind of person and we still love you.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Candy corn.
I fucking love candy corn.
No.
Do not hate on my grandma candy corn.
No. I'm going to put that shit in the garbage.
You just said that because you know I love candy corn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, wait a minute. I picked the wrong candy.
I fucking love candy corn. But we're getting a little off topic here, but we wanted to really bring it to light today because I know clearly a lot of people listen to the podcast for health, fitness, diet, bodybuilding, probably some naughty things on After Dark. But something that comes up is the holidays, especially if you're still trying to cut or be conscious around the holidays. So I'm not trying to be insensitive in saying that like I don't think about it anymore, but I think just to kind of touch on that a little bit, I think because of extreme dieting and bodybuilding and competing, I almost like would have FOMO on Halloween when I couldn't have candy because I couldn't have it, I wanted it.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
If you can't have it, you want something way more than if you don't.
Yes. And so now, like, I'm so far removed from that. And I think you are too, where like, if we really wanted a piece of Halloween candy, we'd be like, okay, cool. And like, we just move on.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like something that would derail us. And then we're going to be dumb for a week after that.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like it doesn't happen like that.
However, I feel like if there was like a bag of candy in front of me that I could see all the time.
Yes.
I may have a problem.
Yes. Which we'll talk about that in just a second. But the first thing is kind of what we're talking about already is we associate like Halloween with like a holiday where you could just, have permission to eat all the candy you want, right? Like we let our kids do it. It's a festive thing for those of you in the States that celebrate. It's one of those things where like there's an abundance and then you just kind of like, it's almost like you think, oh, well, this isn't going to be around till next Halloween. So you just eat the things.
Right.
When indeed that's not true.
No.
But it's like, it gives us permission to just eat stupid candy all day. And like the days leading up.
Well, yeah, because you know that Halloween starts in the stores in like
oh my gosh.
August.
It was
Is it August?
It was August,
yes.
and I was in there and I looked and I was like, no, stop it.
Well, I see. Though, listen, this is totally off topic. However, but I was driving through town, and they're already putting up a Christmas patch.
Mad. I'm so mad about that.
Okay. Anyways, back to Halloween. So the thing is candy is out for a long time. Yes. Before Halloween even happens. And that's the problem, is that you're like, ooh, look, Halloween candy, and you'll buy a bag. Guess what? You're not going to hold on to that Halloween candy until Halloween if you buy it 2 weeks before. There's no way.
No.
None.
You're eating it.
All of it.
Yes. So one thing, like, we want to give you some actionable like tips and strategies, but also the mindset component of it, of just knowing, like, when you go into Halloween, just know that, like, if you go in with that abundance mindset of like, Halloween is readily available, or candy, correction, is readily available
all the time,
anytime I want. If
anytime.
I really want a Snickers or a Kit Kat or a Twix, I can get it anytime I want. Just because they're in cute tiny wrappers does not mean I should eat 12 of them because it's Halloween. Like, that's what I sort of had to start telling myself. Right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of like going into Halloween with the mindset of like, if you have a job where there's going to be candy out all day, just like know when you look at it, like, I saw that candy bar at the grocery aisle yesterday. Like, if I really want it, I can get it anytime.
Correct.
I think that was something that I had to always tell myself, that I don't need to just eat an abundance of mini size Snickers.
I feel like we give ourselves a little bit of a freedom because we're like, it's fine. It's a mini size.
Yeah.
It's a baby candy bar.
Right.
But then it's a baby candy bar 3 times a day. And then it's like maybe 4. Because you know, as soon as you get a little taste of that sugar, you're going to be like, ooh, that was good. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have it again. And then guess what? It's never going to taste as good as that first time.
No,
it's not.
It doesn't.
It's not.
It kind of is, you know, I think this is also a relative episode for something like Easter, because I know for myself, there are certain candies that only come around Easter, and mine are the Cadbury, the Cadbury chocolate eggs, which are less and less appealing to me as the years go on. I will be honest about that. But like the hard shelled Easter Cadbury eggs, like you just pop those guys back. So I will just buy like a small bag just to kind of get that out of my system and be like, oh yeah, I got to have my Easter candy. But I don't buy like the big bag where it's going to like sit in a bowl and be on my counter, because I'll fucking eat the whole, I'll slam the whole bag within 2 days.
Well, yeah. And I feel like that's a really good way to kind of go about your said Halloween candy buying.
Yes.
Okay. Don't go to the store and buy your favorite candy bar and keep that at your house. Like, my mom and dad, they love paydays, right? I don't be like,
I love payday.
I feel like I didn't like paydays until later. They're not my favorite, but I will still get down on a payday. But like, they'll buy like 1 bag of like stuff that they're not like really liking, and then they'll buy like 5 bags of paydays. And I'm like, those paydays are not making it to Halloween. I already know.
Yeah.
You guys are going to handle all of those bags. And so that's a really great way to kind of go into the store, look at that candy and be like, okay, I don't be liking me no Smarties. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to buy bags of Smarties for the kids that come to the door. And guess what? If they don't like it, good luck. I hope you can like trade with your brother or something. Okay.
Yeah.
But that is going to keep me from buying candy that I like and eating a shitload of it.
Yeah. Which is part of our strategy in this podcast, was just plan ahead. So if you are the person who buys the candy, or maybe you're not the person that buys the candy, but you should start to be the person that buys the candy. You know what I'd be saying? Those people in the house that like want to help out, and then they just will buy the actual shit that everybody's going to want to eat.
Yeah.
So to your point, I do the same thing. I don't like Nerds. Why am I going to eat that shit? That's dumb. I like my teeth, first of all. So I'm not eating Nerds. So I'd buy Nerds, Smarties, jelly beans, lollipops.
And you know what? Those are some of the worst ones.
For sure.
They are. They're some of the worst ones. I did not do research on those because I don't really love those, but it said top 5 worst candies, and those were the ones.
Oh,
and I was like, great. I don't like any of those.
I love that. We gotta tell us what the rest of those are here in a bit. But so planning ahead, again, buying stuff that you know you won't be gravitated towards eating. Now, if you just always eat candy and you don't discriminate, I don't know, buy granola bars or something. I don't know. Do something different.
I think you're addicted if you eat candy all the time. You have to be addicted just a little bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're eating it all the time, yes. Like, I try to incorporate chocolate in my day every day in some way, shape, or form, but I'm not going to like drive out and buy a bag of Halloween candy to incorporate chocolate in my, does that make sense? So I'll have like a chocolate rice cake with like peanut butter and jelly, or I'll have like a Greek yogurt with like some cacao chips or something, but I'm not just like having like a big container
bag of
Hershey
candy bars
and just dipping into that constantly all day. Right. So planning ahead is super helpful.
However, what if I want to eat candy every day?
Then if you want to incorporate candy into your diet, this is a strategy that we're essentially talking about, where we give our clients that kind of paint that picture of, we don't want you to be so strict with your diet that you just can't follow a plan or stay within your calorie goals. And we don't want you eating like a dumpster fire. So the strategy that we've come up with, which is our method for most of our transformations, is ditch deprivation, in which you can incorporate that into your diet and still achieve fat loss and hit your goals.
Correct.
Right? So that's what we also want to make sure you guys leave this podcast with. It's like, we're not here to just like be with our pitchforks and like, you know, burning piles of candy, but you have to find that balance. And so sometimes strategizing it ahead of time is very helpful.
Well, this is a great way that we use our macros for this said reason, right? Because in reality, you know, if you want to have a piece of candy, like, you can have a small piece of candy and work that into your diet, even if you're in a fat loss phase. But you're not going to be eating Pop-Tarts and, you know, jelly beans and all of the other things for the rest of your day as well. You know, most of the rest of your food is going to be very healthy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that is how you can work into those candies.
Right. And I think for us, in what we teach our clients and what we try to teach you guys from, you know, listening, is that you can have the best of both worlds, like Miley Cyrus says, but you have to know that there has to be a form of a healthy balance, you know?
Right.
There has to be a form of healthy balance. So for me, I'm not going to chow down on some candy bars if I know I've had one meal today and it was like very lackluster in like protein and all that, and I'm just gonna like justify eating a shit ton of candy. Now, are there days when I've done that? if like life is lifey and I'm having a moment, maybe, but like not really.
No.
You know? So trying to counterbalance that with making sure that the rest of your diet is good and you don't feel like you're cheating or being bad or breaking a rule or something, or like you have to eat it in private because your family thinks you're dieting. Like, no, I can eat this because you guys also see that I eat like whole foods and, you know, all the other things. So it's really like finding that perfect sweet spot.
So do you want to play?
Intended.
Do you want to play a game?
I do.
What is your favorite candy?
Okay, my favorite Halloween candy?
Yeah.
I feel like if my granddaughters, because I'm like, my kids don't trick or treat anymore. But
right.
Like if my granddaughters dumped their candy down, I'm like thinking, what would I probably grab first? Okay, it's not conventional.
Oh, goodness.
Sixlets.
Oh,
I fucking love sixlets.
I love sixlets. Those that when you were talking about Cadbury eggs,
yeah,
I was like, yeah, like sixlets. Those are the best.
Yeah, they have the candy coating. That'd probably be my top one.
Yeah, first.
And they usually come in these small strips for Halloween. So I'd probably snag some of those. What's yours?
Well, now that you said that, it would be that, but I feel like a Snickers, like a little mini Snickers. Or a Reese's, because I did just have a protein Reese's.
You did.
And that
you had a Quest
really
Reese's,
great.
Which are a nice alternative.
It was a great alternative. I feel like I haven't had one in a long time, so it's nice.
So when I know I was like in contest prep, or I was close to a show or coming out of a show, and Halloween was always usually nearby, what I would choose was the better choice, which was like York peppermint patties.
Ew.
And then it kind of like made my mouth minty, and I wouldn't really want any more sweet things after that.
So when I'm trying to be good, which I would do this normally anyways, but Starburst are a really great way to kind of get a little hit.
Yes.
Because there's only two little babies in there, and kind of it lasts a little bit.
Right.
You got to chew on them for a while.
Yes, but I think that was like the us before, but like now I feel like I don't put Halloween candy on such a pedestal that I want to like buy the good shit and have it at my house and be tempted by it and all that. And I'm just like, it's not that big of a deal.
I'll tell you another thing too, though, because like some people, right, their kids are going to go trick-or-treating. Candy's going to be in the house. What are you going to do? So listen, you're not going to let your kids eat 18 pieces of candy, right?
Oh my gosh, please do. And then send us video.
And then see what happens, okay?
Yeah.
But that also means like, hi, you probably shouldn't eat 18 pieces of candy. Now, I know that there is going to be all of your favorite candies when your kids come back. So what do? This is what I do. I put them all in a bag and I put that shit on the top shelf. Yes. And I cannot reach it and I cannot see it. And you know what happens? They get that stuff down and they put it down on the lower shelf. And you know what I do? I put it back on the top shelf because if I keep looking at it, I'm going to be wanting more too. So get that shit out of your eyesight.
Yes.
Out of your eyesight.
And we were talking about this earlier, was if you are going to store your Halloween candy, honestly, this goes for most things that you want to not have pull at you to like eat them, you know, whether that's kids snacks or whatever, is putting them in containers that you can't see through. So like an opaque container, so you can at least, it's not something, because I don't know where I read this, so I don't quote me, but I read somebody kind of regurgitating information on Instagram. So of course it must be true.
Absolutely.
That when food is stored in clear containers, you're more likely to eat it and consume it, and especially like high palatable foods.
Because you can see tasty. It. Yeah. You know, like this is the one thing that I've always wanted to do, but I know that I can't do, is get like a clear jar and just put all the Oreos in it and make them all fucking aesthetic. So they're all like hella cute and shit.
Like a Jenga stack.
Yeah. And I hate to say this because I don't watch the Kardashians, but Khloe Kardashian has one in her kitchen. And I was like, if only I wouldn't eat the whole jar.
She made an aesthetic.
Yeah.
Why?
If you would have saw it, you would have appreciated it.
I don't know though. I probably would have been eating them as I was doing that and it would not have been successful. So
exactly why I haven't tried to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think something else you can do in terms of going into Halloween, if usually you know that you go off the rails with Halloween candy, is just kind of planning ahead, right? Yeah. Like stick to your normal routine on Halloween. It's a Tuesday this year in 2023. So it's a Tuesday, like do your usual stuff. Like I know women who will try to restrict, especially if they're going to like a Halloween party or whatever, or they want to consume copious amounts of shitty candy. So it's like, do your usual thing, get up, drink your water, take your greens, do all that stuff, eat your foods accordingly throughout the day. If you're going to be at a Halloween party, you know, eat before you go, eat protein, take a protein bar with you, maybe have that before you decide, and be a little bit of a food snob and decide if you want to have candy, like what's really worth it. Right.
Yeah.
And I think we should now tell them, you know, because I think it's a shock for some people when they hear like, and we aren't trying to promote like, hey, if you eat 3 mini Snickers, you should go do 45 minutes on the stair mill.
Right.
We're not promoting that whatsoever. I think that's a terrible habit to get into, but just for you to keep top of mind before you go with those candies and just like peeling them and popping them in your mouth. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to say?
Yeah.
Okay. So wait. Okay. What should we start with? So the one that I would have had if I would have had the real thing, right, would have been a Reese's. I had a protein one, which was great. So a Reese's is 90 calories, and that is 10 minutes of spinning. And I've been doing a lot of spinning, and that's rough.
And that's just for one. That's just
for
one.
So my healthy version, right, would have been the Starburst. 40 calories would be 10 flights of stairs.
Which I feel like we just did to try to set up the podcast today.
Oh my gosh. I'm pretty sure. I needed to like calm down a minute.
So now you need some Starburst.
I need a Starburst because I did that. No. But yeah, I mean, in reality, do I want you to go run 10 flights of stairs because you ate 2 Starbursts? No, absolutely not. But that just can kind of give you a little insight onto like what is worth it and what is not. Because in what we talk about, right? Calories in, calories out, also macros. So every different kind of candy bar is going to have a different macro. If it's something that got peanut butter in it, she's going to have more fat.
Definitely.
So much more. Yesterday at the studio, my friend, she opened her bag and she was like, look. And then she had peanut butter M&Ms.
Oh,
I was like, oh gosh.
I forgot about the M&Ms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing. Your favorite thing also back in the day was peanut M&Ms.
Mm-hmm.
That is also a thing, right? So,
yeah. And I used to eat them every day to teach people like, hey, I'm lean. At the time I was like either, I don't know, I was doing macros for a while before I competed, and I was like still getting shredded. And I like knew I needed to have one thing every day to just at least, I started calling it a sanity food. And then we just started talking about it and it became a thing. But I just love, I call them like meal finishers. Well, I think I stole that from somebody, but basically like some people aren't about sweets, but I love to have a little something sweet. And so, you know, I just kind of go into spurts of what I like, but M&Ms was one at one point. Some time.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But okay, so the thing about that, like if we're talking about that, the reason you were allowed that is because most of your other foods for the rest of the day were good.
Oh, for sure.
And if you would stay on track with your foods for the full day, then guess what? You get to have a little bit of M&Ms.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, when your kids eat all their dinner and then they can have dessert kind of a thing. I don't know. But I don't know. I think when it comes to the realization of how much you would have to exercise for some stupid Halloween candy, right? Which we're not, again, telling you to do. It's really just for you to understand the importance of how oftentimes we don't think all the little things that we snack on all day are the reason why we aren't losing weight or, you know, that, because I know you've heard it time and time again. You and I know because we've put our body through extreme diets and we know how hard it is to get stage lean. And I think that puts us in a position to understand the reality of how impactful calories are on your physique and, you know, your body fat and all those things.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the types of foods as well. That's why it's so good to be like, yes, you can have this, but you're not going to go out and you're not going to have 16 pieces or the whole bag.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, not to get on a different topic too, but I think this also is something that you and I know now where we're focusing more on like lifestyle and just kind of like maintaining where we're at, you know, potentially you competing again, but like no pressure to do that anytime soon.
Right.
But we know, like, I know immediately if I wanted to drop 10 pounds, exactly what my I don't want to say problems because I'm happy with my body right now, but I would know exactly what is contributing to that. Like, absolutely. I am not here going to be like, I don't know why I can't lose weight. Like, no, bitch, I know why. It's because you like to have a couple drinks on the weekend. You like to share some nachos with your man. You know, we love cookies, like shit like that. So, but again, you just have to know that, like, be aware.
I think that's the big thing too, especially like, you know, this is definitely off topic, but when you start bringing realization to the calories and like what's actually in the food that you're actually eating, I think it gives you a lot of thoughts of like, oh, well, yeah, you know, I'm not going to eat that. Especially if you are actively trying to lose weight, you need to know that some of these things are important.
Definitely.
You can't just be like, oh, I eat really good, and then little bites, licks, and tastes and little candies here and there are going to be a problem, you know?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It all adds up, and it adds up very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't realize that, especially if they are used to like just grazing all day.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that they're like, I love snacks. Snacks are my thing. And I'm like, okay, well, you're going to realize that the snacks are the problem. It's like you eat really well all of the other times, but you have so many snacks that it puts you over.
Yeah, snacks are a trap. I feel like they're so good, and I get it. But most of the time, they are just a trap for people who are really trying to, like, you know, drop body fat or, you know, stay within a calorie range. It's like the snacks will get to you. But
I feel like I love snacks. And that's why it's like I have to watch my snacks when I feel like I'm in like a deficit or trying to lose weight.
Most definitely. Like I said, we know if you and I were like, okay, we need to drop like 5 pounds immediately, like
the snacks
exactly
gotta go.
The snacking has to go, the dining out and just eating not what we would like super lean. Like we could still go out and eat, but it would be like we would probably be choosing different things and probably
instead of eating the chips, we would not.
Yes, we would be ordering cucumber slices with salsa, just dumb shit and very depressing stuff like that. So all that to say, like, it can fit, you can make it work. It's just you have to be smart about it and then just be very aware of like the fact that all of that shit adds up.
Plan ahead.
Yeah.
Plan ahead.
And then you have the obvious things for Halloween or obviously any holidays too, which is if you're going to a party or something like that, it's like bring something with you that you know at least, hey, I've brought this thing with me or I brought this thing for the kids' party or whatever. Yeah. And you can at least consume some of that before you do some damage with some Halloween candy.
Well, I feel like, you also need to find like a healthy alternative.
Yes.
Right. Which is why I touched on earlier of saying like, I would rather really just eat a protein bar at this point than have a full on like Snickers bar. Because most of the protein bars that I pick taste like Snickers bars.
Yeah.
So I'm really not missing out on anything.
Yeah. So for listener help and reference, if you've never eaten protein bars, what rock are you living under? But if you never have, because some people, I know clients at the studio will be like, I don't eat protein bars. Aren't they gross?
Depends.
And I'm like, okay, you clearly haven't had a protein bar recently because they used to be disgusting.
Right. Well, I think it also depends, right? It also depends on like what your preference is. And if you haven't found your preference protein bar, by all means, keep looking because you're going to find one that's going to taste good. And you're going to be like, okay, I do like that.
Yeah. So I'm just going to spit off 3 that I like. And then if you have other ones, we'll also put those in.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to give you some info on all them, right?
Yeah.
So like Built Bars are my favorite chewy protein.
So they're kind of fudgy.
They're very fudgy.
I don't dislike them, but they are not my favorite. They get stuck in my teeth.
Yes, which you don't like. I like that.
Right.
I like to be eating it
you
for
have to
hours
chew it.
after.
Yeah. You have to chew it for a long time.
Teeth. But they have like the marshmallow ones, which are amazing.
Right.
The Puffs bars. If you like coconut, I love coconut. Their coconut brownie one, fucking amazing. Anything also, coconut. And
use her code.
Oh, yes. And we'll link that up in the show notes in the description on YouTube. But use my code. It's Diane Saves You. I don't know. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I'm terrible. But I do have a promo code for them. And then I had one the other day. Have you ever had a mussel sandwich? Girl.
No, but now I feel like I'm missing out. Okay.
So
is this because
you're
in NutriShop now a lot, so you're getting to try all the really good ones?
Yes. So my boyfriend owns 2 NutriShops, and he brought me this protein bar, and he's like, "You've never had a mussel sandwich?" I'm like, first of all, that name is so cheesy. I don't even want to eat it.
I do. Like, I absolutely do.
He's like, your mind is going to forever be blown. And he wasn't wrong. They're like graham crackers and they're coated. And then, I don't know, amazing. So good. I think I had a cookies and cream one. I don't know if they have other flavors.
I'm sure.
And then my third favorite is probably the Power Crunch bars.
They're like little grandma wafer cookies. They're bomb. Yeah. Okay. So
those are my
remember when grandma would have like the chocolate, the vanilla, and the pink wafers?
The Neapolitan wafers.
Exactly like that. But I would only eat the pink ones.
I would eat the brown ones. Yeah. Chocolate. But those are super good. So they have that wafer crispy crunchiness to it. The mussel sandwich is kind of like crispy crunchy and a little bit like not a ton chewy, and then Built Bars are very chewy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which ones do you particularly care for these days?
I mean, like the one that is probably more of a meal replacement. I think that's something that we should probably touch on a little bit.
Yeah.
Not all protein bars are snacks. Okay.
Yes.
Some of them are meal replacements. The Cliff Builder bars. But I also think that we need to bring up the fact that if you are eating a regular Cliff bar, you are eating a carb sandwich.
Definitely.
It has
carbs.
65 grams of carbs in this
in those little Cliff
squishy, nasty,
pockets,
grossy
and
things.
People are eating those left and right, thinking
Stop
they're being healthy.
eating those. They are not healthy. Even those little tiny ones. I don't know how they came about the studio, but I seen one and I was like, me and Alicia were eating them, and they're like 35 grams of carbs for this little tiny thing. So Cliff Builder bars are protein bars that have like 20, 30 grams of protein in them.
Yeah.
Just be aware if anything is over 200 calories ish, you're getting more into a meal replacement than you are a snack.
Yes. And I know there's going to be people out there that are going to be like protein bars or glorified candy bars and blah, blah, blah.
Exactly what I said earlier.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, you're right. Yes.
Yes. However, you are still at least getting one of the most important macronutrients in your system, albeit not the best quality, because I think there's something to be said about most of your protein coming from whole foods versus fakey proteins.
Right.
But nonetheless, you will have a bar that has a significant amount of protein in it. Usually they're made with, some kind of substitutes. So you're not getting like an insane amount of sugars. There's some fiber in there and things like that. So I don't think that they're like quote unquote healthy by any means, but I think they're the lesser of the two evils, and you can at least hit some macronutrient goals versus just eating a candy bar that's just empty calories.
I feel like if you are a person that you're just now getting into macros and you're having a really hard time getting your protein in, protein shakes and protein bars are definitely a really great way. But the problem with those in like what we're talking about is that they're not bad for you. But the reason that we want you to limit that is because one, yes, the quality is not that great. But two, if you are somebody that is hungry, okay, like me, I'm hungry all the time. Like, ask me if I want to eat. I'm like, well, I just ate, but I could probably eat again.
Yeah.
Okay. But I have to say no, right? The alarm didn't go off yet. But with that being said, you have to be aware, like if you are having a hard time getting protein in, those are going to be great ways. But if you are hungry a lot and you're not getting in whole foods where you're chewing and it's taking a long time to break down in your stomach, you're going to be hungry again. So whenever I see somebody that's like in a deficit and they're like, okay, well, I'm very hungry, but they're having like 2 protein shakes a day and a protein bar. And I'm like, well, you're having no real food. So let's pull that back. So there's a difference, right? If you're eating mostly whole foods and then you have a protein bar, you're fine. You're going to be okay.
Yeah. I think it's again, I know personally working with women on nutrition for so many years that I don't really like to just like knock protein bars down. And I also don't like to glorify them. I just like them to be in the Goldilocks zone, right? Like a little bit sometimes, not all the time, not too much, because I have had so many cases of clients who had addictions to candy at their desk or candy in the office, drinking tons of soda, like that was their primary beverage and things like that. And like we just made some simple adjustments and I offer them substitutes, which we do, and it works wonderfully. Right. And that's like creating new lifestyle habits. But I think another piece of the success puzzle for a lot of my clients is that they loved sweets or they loved chocolate or this or that. And I'm like, okay, well, figure out what your favorite protein bar is, have them handy, and let yourself have that once a day, because they're usually in the mindset of like, I can't have anything that's good. It has to taste like shit because I'm dieting. Right. And it's like, if this protein bar is going to keep you on track, hits your cravings, you're getting protein, fucking eat the protein bar. Okay. Not if you're in prep. That's a different conversation. But for lifestyle clients, right? Yeah, like if you're getting ready for a show and all that, like, again, we want you to have whole foods because that's going to keep you fuller longer.
Yeah.
So, but again, there have been times where I know myself personally, I was going to lose my shit if I didn't have a protein bar. Do you remember I would have to have my Built Bars like locked up?
Yes.
Locked up.
Tis the season of when this was the problem for you and all of my memories are coming back up.
Oh my God, you just send them to me.
I should. But yes, great. So I remember you had to lock up your protein bars. I feel like there's a point, right? There are some times where some things are like you have a hard time controlling yourself, right? And then there's some times where you're like, oh, it's fine, right? Like I've had plenty of times, like right now, you're not going to go eat 18 protein bars that are downstairs right now.
And I'm like, which one do you want? I have like 10 different varieties.
All of the different flavors, right? So there's different times in your life of when, sometimes you're going to have a little addiction to something and you're like, okay, I need to the best thing that you can do is just like pull that out. Mm-hmm. And then later on, maybe you can bring it back. Like right now, I'm not really eating any almond butter.
Yeah.
I'm not eating any protein bars either. And there was a moment where I was like having maybe 3 a day.
Yeah. And then here we just
in a row.
On. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, moral of the story, eat a damn protein bar. This was not we didn't even plan on talking about this as a podcast, but it's a really honest, kind of like our honest experience with ourselves, our clients, coaching our clients, right? There's no like hard and fast rules. There's no only way we do things. There's no like dogma around the style of like our dieting. It's just, you got to figure out what works. Yeah. Then sometimes it doesn't work. And then you just switch things up and you course correct. But we want you to enjoy your Halloween. not go into it feeling stressed out because you know you're going to gain 2 pounds the next day or whatever. Don't weigh yourself.
Don't eat a shit ton of candy.
Yeah.
Like I said,
both of those things.
You're not going to let your kids eat 16 candy bars. So don't be eating 16 candy bars yourself.
Yes.
You're going to feel like garbage. Okay. But if you can have one, maybe two, maybe you have a few days where you have one every day. Great. Right. Go ahead. Totally have that. But if you know it's going to be a problem, let's find an option for you to kind of change that out, which is why we're pushing protein bars, if that's going to be your way of doing it. But, you know, either way, just make sure that you're going into it where it's like, I need to figure this out of where I'm at and not let it go too far to where you're having 16 candy bars or, you know, 3 protein bars.
Exactly. So be wise about your Halloween choices. And if you aren't wise and you slip up, you just get back to business as usual the next day. Get that shit out of your house or put it in a container that you can't look at and see out the Reese's screaming at you every day.
Put it on the top shelf.
Put it on the top shelf. Prepare yourself the day of Halloween. You know, try to keep a lot of better options in your house for snacks. If you haven't already downloaded my 23 protein snack ideas, this is a perfect place for me to plug it. So we'll make sure that gets in the show notes for you. It's a free PDF list of 23 different ideas that I usually have handy or I've used and consumed in the past for high protein snacks, which is super great, especially if you're about to go out trick-or-treating with your kids. You're going to be dipping in that bag. Have some protein first. So make sure to download that and join us on the next episode
of Boss Bitch Radio.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Bye.